So this next movie is the second highest rated on our list, with a 15% on the tomato meter, an audience score of 50%, and a 5.4 rating on IMDb, giving it a total average rating of 40%. Maximum Overdrive, released in 1986, is the Stephen King flick about a comet that passed by Earth, giving rise to all the world's machines and causing them to go on a homicidal rampage for 8 days, 5 hours, 29 minutes, and 23 seconds. And yes, that's exactly how long the movie claims the attack occurs. Why such an obscure yet exact amount of time? How do the machines get power from the comet? Why does it cause them to want to kill all humans? Well, no one knows, because none of this is explained in the film. And spoiler alert, this oddly specific time frame is the only thing that stops everyone from being destroyed. There are no heroes, and no one accomplishes anything or does anything to affect the outcome of the movie. 8 days, 5 hours, 29 minutes, and 23 seconds simply pass, and the terror ends. And that's just one of the many ridiculous things about this movie that make it so awesomely bad. It's one of those cheesy horror flicks that used to play late night on TNT's Monster Vision back in the day. But unfortunately, they always cut out all the best gory parts, making it even worse than it already is. But this is the only movie on this list, in my opinion, that actually has replay value. It's definitely a bad movie, but not so bad that you don't end up wanting to come back for more. Every few years, I'll fit this one into my monster movie marathon that I have throughout each Halloween season. So what exactly is awesome about it? Well, the soundtrack for one, which is comprised completely of AC/DC songs, and the music perfectly sets the vibe for this masterpiece, kicking it off appropriately with their hit Who Made Who, which was one of 3 tracks recorded specifically for the soundtrack, with the rest being previously recorded AC/DC hits. The main antagonist of the film is an 18-wheeler from a toy company that for some reason has a giant head of Green Goblin from the original Spider-Man comics attached to the front, with glowing red eyes. It looks awesome and gives the truck an extra element of badness, in a good way, but also makes you wonder, why Green Goblin? It's so random. Another awesome thing about this movie is the attack by the machines on the humans. Some of them, like when a girl gets cut by an electric knife in a diner, or when a kid gets chased by a gas-powered push mower, are exactly the kind of corniness you'd expect from a $10 million piece of horror garbage like this. But some of the kills are awesome, like the one where a baseball coach gets blasted by soda cans at the practice field right before a steamroller breaks through a scoreboard out of nowhere and runs a kid down. These moments are pretty creative and are only made more epic by the horror string electric guitar effect that plays during the attack. The low-budget special effects in the film are also pretty sweet, like a scene where a guy gets blasted by a truck and explodes, or some of the cars and trucks falling off bridges, rolling over cliffs, or flipping into the air, or getting blasted by bazookas and other weapons. And of course, the script and acting are mostly terrible. It's packed with corny lines and bad actors, except of course for Gordon Bombay himself, Emilio Estevez, and a young Yardley Smith, also known as the voice of Lisa Simpson. But in this movie, she sounds like Lisa with a terrible southern accent. For half of the movie, she's driving around with her newlywed husband, being chased by killer trucks, and for absolutely no reason, her car is the only machine that doesn't seem to take on a mind of its own. Just another nonsensical aspect of this amazingly bad film. And who doesn't love when one of the characters has the movie title incorporated into their dialogue?
That's what I was doing before every machine in the world went into maximum overdrive.
That's all part of this movie's charm, and what makes it so awesomely bad. So if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. So this next movie might be the most ridiculous of the bunch, although it would be hard to beat that second movie from part 1 of this 2-video series, which if you haven't seen yet, you can check it out at the end screen of this one. With a tomato meter score of just 7%, an audience score of 38%, and a 3.3 on IMDb, this movie gets a total average score of 26%, placing its rank in the center of our list. Released in 1988, Mac and Me, like some of the other movies we've discussed, is also rated PG, and again involves space creatures and puppets. It's basically a low-budget E.T. ripoff, and like the first movie from the last video, it seems to be one giant ad for a food company, only instead of beer, this one's for Coca-Cola and McDonald's, even containing a full ad for the restaurant in the middle of the movie during an infamous dance scene that features the fast food mascot Ronald McDonald. The scene makes absolutely no sense, and for no reason at all, everyone just randomly gets up and starts doing this epic choreographed dance number to the cheesiest 80s synth pop music you've ever heard. Also, the alien's name is Mac, which according to the kid in the movie stands for mysterious alien creature. I mean, how many McDonald's references can you fit in 1 hour-and-a-half film?
It's McDonald's, huh?
Stop by for a Big Mac. A Big Mac?
So what makes this movie awesome? Well, the McDonald's dance scene I just mentioned for one, but also a hilarious and unnecessary part where the main character, who appears to be wheelchair bound, rolls down a hill and off a cliff. Only in a cheesy 80s sci-fi movie would you see something like this. It's by far the corniest and most ridiculous film on our list, even more so in my opinion than that second one from the last video. And that piece of cinema gold is hard to beat. The puppet character in this movie is so terrible you can't help but laugh at it. And just like most of the movies we've discussed, so much about this one is completely nonsensical. Like for some reason in the beginning, Mac is roaming around their house using power tools to cut holes through every door and wall in sight. This is how he's revealed to the main character, but it's completely pointless and unnecessary. Like, why would he be using power tools? And a little later in the movie, when the kid finally catches Mac to prove to his family that the thing exists, since no one believes him, he catches it somehow by sucking its entire body through a vacuum hose and trapping it inside the vacuum cleaner. We're just supposed to accept that this 2-foot creature somehow fit through a 3-inch diameter hose. Then, of course, the moment he gets out, they immediately start feeding him Coca-Cola.
This must be like what they drink on their own planet.
Yeah, I'm sure they have sugary carbonated drink manufacturers on whatever planet this thing's from. Then the next thing you know, Mac is reading the newspaper, despite the fact that he can't even talk. And after he escapes from the house, the family wakes up to all the damage he made with the power tools being fixed and everything clean spotless.
He cleaned up everything.
Everything but this sweet, delicious can of Coke. The puppet in this movie is funny, but it's probably the worst thing about it. For one, it's hideous, not cute at all like E.T. kinda was, and also unlike E.T., he can barely move, other than his head wobbling slightly. So every scene where you see him, he's just standing or sitting there doing nothing but staring with this bizarre gaze. The fact that this movie cost $13 million is unfathomable. But of course, during the McDonald's dance scene when Mac is hidden in a bear suit, he instantly goes from immobile to having moves that are smoother than those of Michael Jackson. It's hilarious how much of a ripoff this thing is of E.T. Boy finds alien, befriends alien, feeds alien sugar and tries to get him back to his family, while being hunted by the government. They even replicated the infamous E.T. bike scene using this kid's wheelchair instead, although he doesn't fly in this one. And it only gets more crazy in the third act after the McDonald's scene, but I won't spoil it for you, you'll just have to check this one out for yourself. So this next movie is probably the most well-known but notoriously hated on the list. Most people would probably say that it's just plain bad, but we're going to discuss why it's actually awesomely bad. This is another sequel and ranks as the second lowest by rating that we've discussed so far. Again, you'll have to watch part 1 to see our absolute lowest rated movie if you haven't seen that yet. This is one of the few movies from the list that's actually on TV sometimes. It's one of those sequels that you always see on HBO or Comedy Central on a Sunday afternoon because the networks are too cheap to afford the original one. It has a 4% on the tomato meter with an 18% audience score and a 3.8 on IMDb, giving it a total average score of 20%. And the movie I'm referring to is Caddyshack 2. The 1988 follow-up to the original cult classic golf film with nearly none of the charm and none of the same actors other than Chevy Chase, plus the star of this franchise, of course, another puppet. And we don't even get to hear the awesome Kenny Loggins hit I'm Alright in this one. But although Bill Murray is no longer the groundskeeper, we at least get the other great Ghostbuster as a replacement. Although Dan Aykroyd's character and the way he plays it couldn't be more obnoxious. But in my opinion, he's so annoying in the role that he transcends badness and enters the realm of hilarity, especially when he refers to Unsolved Mystery Guy as Mrs. Esterhouse repeatedly. It's just so dumb that it makes me crack up. And I know most people hate his voice in this, but I seriously cannot help but laugh when he talks. I'm even laughing now just thinking about it. To this day, I also find myself laughing even when I'm reminded of it anytime I hear someone use the phrase,
"Don't have it."
How can you not laugh when he asks Chevy Chase to suck the poison out of his rear? Dan Aykroyd might be completely idiotic in this movie, but he's probably the funniest thing in it, other than Randy Quaid, who also cracks me up when he's blocking shots dressed like a hockey player and beating people up for no reason or giving them wedgies. I know this isn't a popular opinion, but I'm just gonna say it. The original Caddyshack is overrated. People act like it's hilarious and that this movie was so bad in comparison, but let's be real. The first Caddyshack is good for a couple of laughs, and that's about it. It's not that great. In fact, after watching this one again for this video, I laughed more than I thought I would, and dare I say that laugh for laugh, this one might actually be funnier. It's fun watching all the rich people get their comeuppance from this dude who's a blue-collar guy with enough money to taunt them all and turn the club into a playground. I know I'd rather be a member of this club than any of the ones I've been to, so that's why in my opinion this movie's not just bad, it's awesomely bad. But that's it for the list. So what do you think of these awesomely bad movies? Let us all know in the comments, and thanks to the subscribers or anyone who clicked a like on this video. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, feel free to check that out or any other video from the channel. I'll see you there, and until then, live well and take it easy. Later.